Listener warning. Everything about this podcast is offensive and often stupid.
Hey, this is Rob with Guys, Games, and Beer. And I'm with
Dan the Bard and
Granger the Ranger.
And they're not with anybody. They're all by themselves. They stand a force alone.
Alone, yes. Check out danthebard.com for more information.
Hey, look at Tom. You don't even need a job anymore. You can just relax.
Well, why don't
That's
you
his
tell us
job.
a little bit about who you are?
Well, I started doing Dungeons & Dragons songs about 8 years ago. I have 9 CDs. 4 of them are gamer songs about general nerd culture. I perform at Gen Con, WindyCon, DuckCon, CodCon, Con and the Cobb Con, and now GameHole Con and GaryCon in March. And I'm keep adding more cons every year, and I'm also the music director of the Bristol Renaissance Fair, and I have a lot of fun doing this. I set basically Dungeons & Dragons lyrics and other nerd culture lyrics to Renaissance and medieval music.
Okay, controversial question?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's always been this sort of D&D versus period Renaissance people. People who appreciate the period for what it is and want it to be actual versus people who are sort of fantasy players and that kind of thing. How do you straddle those? Because it sounds like you do both.
You know, I love the period stuff. It's really, really great. And I think that enhances the fantasy element because the fantasy can get really out of control if you don't have some sort of limits. And when you do fantastic things, when you have limits, that's more interesting, so everybody benefits from it.
All right, so controversy over, everyone. Over.
You're done with it.
They need both. They need each other, basically. They need each other.
When you put them together, it's Game of Thrones.
Yes, Game of Thrones is an example where they figured out how not to take it too far fantasy and incorporate actual historical elements to make a cool show that everybody can relate to.
Like Space
That
1999.
makes sense to me.
Oh, wait. Sorry. That was totally off track.
Exactly the same thing, yeah. Cool.
All right. So how long have you been in this?
I've been doing music for, 20 years as a performer, and I've been doing this gamer stuff for about 8 or 9 years now.
No kidding. How many years?
8 or 9.
So nearly a decade.
Yes.
So first, what was your first album?
My first D&D album was called Manticores and Owlbears. And then I followed that up with Bard Camp, which has a song like this one time at Bard Camp. It goes on from there. And then I have Epic Loot, and then I have a new one out this year called Cross Genre References. And then I've got 5 more mainstream CDs besides that of folk music and storytelling.
Which are actually very similar, right? I mean, it's kind of a similar genre.
There is a lot of overlap, but as a full-time musician, I have to be able to have different genres. So for the more mainstream, I go into schools and libraries and do like Renaissance and folk music. I'm in an Irish band. We play at a pub every week and we do festivals. And then my favorite thing to do is Dan the Bard, where I get to actually be full-out nerd, full-out gamer, full-out musician at awesome conventions.
Was there a time when you decided I am internally a bard and therefore I must bring this into into my external life?
That is a cool question. Actually, my master's thesis was on the Welsh bardic tradition of the 16th century. And I wrote all these papers on bards. And my professors are like, you seem to really focus. Do you know what you're doing? I'm like, no, I have a compulsion. I have a compulsion to know about bards. And then a few years later, I'm at the Renaissance Fair, and somebody's like, man, you're a really great bard. And it occurred to me, holy crap, I am. I mean, not necessarily great, but I'm actually playing, I am a bard. And that was really cool.
When you played the Bard's Tale, did you feel...
That was wrong.
I love that game.
See, I do.
I liked going to other planes of existence. It was a very good outlet when I was young. So, yes, that's cool.
First RPG.
Basic Edition Redbox.
Okay, so you're going old school. I keep forgetting. We do a lot of video game interviews. Let's go on the video game side. How about on the video game side?
Video game sign, Pool of Radiance.
Pool of Radiance.
Yeah, Pools of Radiance. Yeah.
That was one of the gold box
Yes.
D&D games, right?
But I played, I think it was Bard's Tale, like the early, we're talking early gaming. I mean, if you want to get technically the earliest gamer game that I played that was almost an adventure game was Adventure on the 2600.
Which had awesome ducks.
Yes. and Easter eggs.
And let's get a Ranger's opinion on that.
On which part?
Do you do you play any video games, the RPG video games?
I do Final Fantasy.
That's a good choice. The original or which one?
I play several of them actually. I like all of them, but right now I'm doing it's the Bookkeeper. There's a new
Okay.
one that just came out. It's an app for the phone.
Oh, okay. So I'm not familiar with that one.
Larry's
So-
completely non-mobile.
Did you see the gears going?
Beautiful, yeah. I love that. It's very rare in gaming that you actually catch them.
Yeah.
And it's a new branch off. Like they put all the games together into one, and somebody went through the time portal and messed the stories up. So now the record keeper has to go through and fix it. So it's kind of a conglomeration of all of them.
Sounds like it would be really rewarding for someone who's played the other ones. If you went into it without playing the other ones, it'd be like, okay.
That is true. If you like Final Fantasy, it is kind of that
Bye, Tom.
do-all Final Fantasy.
All right.
Forget it.
What
I
are you
can't really
just
defend
doing
myself
over
on
there?
that. Sorry. Nothing. There's nothing going on over here. What are you talking about? All right, so.
All right, well, let's go on. Hey, you know what? You've talked about drinking songs. So what's your favorite beer?
Guinness.
Guinness?
I drink a lot of Guinness. I'm an Irish fan.
There's a lot of songs about Guinness, too.
Yeah.
Have you written any?
Not about Guinness specifically, but I've written a lot of drinking songs.
Well, I like that.
All right.
I know. I think you should play a drinking song.
Okay, this is called the Demi-Human Drinking Song. There's never a wine is ever as fine as made by a vineyard elf. RPG diddly D and D, don't fumble as you stumble to the shelf. Cider's made by a whole halfling, whiskey's made by a gnome. RPG diddly D and D, don't fumble as you tumble to your home. There ain't no beer that brings such cheer as made by an alehouse dwarf. RPG diddly D and D, don't fumble as you tumble, you'll barf. RPG diddly D and D, we'll sing this song all night. If demi-human drinking's wrong, I don't wanna be right. Fortitude! Wandered once to the land of the gnomes, and they gave me a drink in their hillside home. Gnomish whiskey, single malt. If I drank too much, it's not my fault. Halfling cider from the Shire sets your heart and soul on fire. At a halfling feast, all mirth abounds, and a demi-human drinking song. Here we go. Fortitude! There's never a wine as ever as fine as made by a vineyard elf. RPG diddly DMD, don't fumble as you tumble to the shelf. Cider's made by a whole halfling, whiskey's made by a gnome. RPG diddly D&D, don't fumble as you tumble to your home. There ain't no beer that brings such cheer as made by an alehouse dwarf. RPG diddly D&D, don't fumble as you tumble, you'll barf. RPG diddly D&D, we'll sing this song all night. If demi-human drinking's wrong, I don't wanna be right. Fortitude! Wandered once to an elven wood, and everywhere a gazebo stood. Turns out these were elven bars with elven wine, the best by far, beer from dwarven breweries, worth the extra calories. Now you know why dwarves are around from the demi-human drinking song. Fortitude! There's never a wine as ever as fine as made by a vineyard elf. RPG diddly D&D, don't fumble as you tumble on the shelf. Cider's made by a whole halfling, whiskey's made by an gnome. RPG diddly D&D, don't fumble as you tumble to your home. There ain't no beer that brings such cheer as made by an alehouse dwarf. RPG diddly D&D, don't fumble as you tumble, you'll barf. RPG diddly D&D, we'll sing this song all night. If demi-human drinking's wrong, I don't wanna be right. If demi-human drinking's wrong, I don't wanna be right. If demi-human drinking's wrong, I don't wanna be right. Fortitude! Well done.
Nice.
Good job. That's so. If one wanted to get a copy of that song, it's on.
Oh, you can find it at cdbaby.com. You can find it at iTunes, Spotify. Look up Demi-Human Drinking Song. You can search for Dan Marcotte, Daniel Marcotte, or Dan the Bard. It's a complicated story. But you can go to my website, too, danthebard.com, or like me on Facebook.com/Dan the Bard.
And we'll definitely link that up. That was awesome. Cheers. Yay. All right, well, thank you very much for watching this segment of this multi-segment episode of Guys, Games, and Beer. More to come. This is Rob with Guys, Games, and Beer, and I'm with...
Alex Chang.
And he's with...
Acronaut Games from Chicago, Illinois.
Oh, you're from Chicago? Dang, just south of the border. We're in Racine, so we're based out of Racine, so we're right out there. Yep. All right, so Larry...
Friendly neighbors? I don't know.
I don't know. I feel like there's probably... I don't know if it'd be friendly. I feel like anywhere between the city and the suburbs is like just a natural animosity.
So good,
I'm from
we're on the
Racine.
same
It's
page.
nothing but animosity.
Just mutual hatred.
And yet that then brings us together. See,
Yes.
united in our hatred. So, complete distraction.
That's what Larry's good for. All right, Larry, so last night you were playing a game.
I was playing a game. And what was that game called?
The game is called Gigarobo. It is the card-driven miniatures game of giant anime robot combat.
Oh my God, I saw pictures of this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was
Now-
around yesterday. Okay.
Now, see, you said robot. I'm going to say really more of a mech, isn't it? I mean, there is a pilot. There is a...
I feel like there's a firm line. There's a firm line that needs to be declared. I kind of feel like if you're looking at it, it's like anything from like 70s, mid 80s, that's like robot in terms of style. And I feel like for past then, like you're getting into like, I don't know, more modern. I feel like then you're in the mecha territory. I don't know. I feel like the inspiration for the game, the designs at least, are more from 70s, 80s. Like,
Okay, so
Yeah.
so your well, how you're defining a mech versus a robot is based in style.
I think so. Yeah. I mean, that's also completely BS. But yeah, in style.
Okay.
If I was going to force the classification, I guess I would say style.
See, we had this discussion on our show, and we define robots as, something that doesn't include a pilot.
Oh, okay.
And
Oh, yeah,
mechs include pilots.
That's true. It's all true.
45 minutes later, we still had not settled this. So,
But now, obviously, there's other mech games out there, but your mechs do have a style to them.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I am really drawing from a lot of, like, Japanese, like, manga and anime for the robot styles. I'm trying to make it so that, like, each robot has, like, a lot of character to it. Like, I wanted to make sure that, like, their visuals, like, really represent the way they play. So, like, you have the smaller robot, it's called Dairaijin V, who you played last night, with, like, a lot of sharp angles, kind of, like, thin proportions. He's, like, the fastest one. And then we have, like, the big lumbering one, which is the slowest, but the strongest. And in the game, their attacks, all the attacks, like, leave marks on the battlefield. So, for example, we didn't play with them last night, but, like, so the biggest robot's called Aizen, and, like, a lot of his attacks create craters in the ground, and these are, like, scars that stay permanently on the battlefield. And then, for example, Dairaijin, who's the fastest, he's got a lot of, like, electrical attacks, and, like, he leaves these kind of power surges on the board and things like that. And I just wanted to make sure that every single robot had a very distinct personality.
That makes sense. And now when it finally goes to production, everything's going to have actual miniatures.
Yeah, absolutely. Everything will be plastic miniatures, injection molded plastic. We have 3D prints here just for the con, but yeah, we want to do like the full production treatment for it, make sure they're as detailed as possible, and they're pretty large. I think our largest is just under 4 inches tall.
Okay.
So yeah, and then in scale with the city, I don't know. I feel like yeah, the full like injection molded plastic is kind of essential to the aesthetic.
Okay,
Yeah.
sure. I get that. And I got to tell you, I've played various mech games, and one of the things that intrigued me about your game, and I don't know, maybe you took this into consideration, is that once you get past the learning curve, short duration. You're talking about a mech game that you could play essentially in an hour?
Yeah, like usually after that first game where you're learning the rules, it's like 45 minutes to an hour is usually like the running time. More experienced players, I feel like it gets close, shorter and shorter. But yeah, 45 minutes an hour is usually the running
Was
time.
that a target for
Yeah,
you?
I definitely wanted to. So a big inspiration for the game was like trading card games, collectible card games. I really like that kind of rhythm, that kind of take that back and forth mechanic. So, and I feel like most of those card games, you're sitting at like 30 minutes, 45 minutes.
Right.
And I really kind of wanted to take that like kind of miniature combat game, but bring it that really fast pace back and forth, take that rhythm. Yeah. So that was definitely a goal from the beginning.
Okay, what were some of the challenges to your design? Like, okay, so you design something and then you beta test it and went, wow, this doesn't work at all.
Oh man. I've got like there's a laundry list of like everything that was cut from the game that like I loved so much, and I was going into it and I was like, this is it, this is gonna clinch it. And then it would like hit the table and it was just like, oh, this is horrible. Yeah, I mean, like you just have to do that though. You have to cut so much of the fat, even the things you love. Like in the beginning, I wanted to have it so like you can have these like kind of like absurd anime moments where like you'd have the pilot just kind of sitting there charging up and kind of like thinking about like Dragon Ball Z, just sitting there like, ah! And it made it, and like people liked it, but then you just literally it would just be like that same thing where you'd have two people on the other side of the board just sitting there screaming and charging up, and nothing would happen, and then they would run at each other and they would like be clashing, and then they would back up and charge again. So I caught that. Yeah, I also used to have a thing.
It's like on the Xbox we do that.
So the currency in the game is fighting spirit. It's your pilot's fighting spirit that essentially powers all of the robot's attacks and everything like that. Then I also had a mechanic earlier on that I loved that I was trying to hold on to for so long, where essentially if you had a tie originally, you do like a closed blind like bid against each other with your fighting spirit, and then you would reveal it, so who would like invest more of themselves into it. But it like slowed the game down so much. So I think honestly the biggest challenge was really taking, because I really wanted to just make it thematic, as thematic as possible. And there's like so many ideas I had in my mind that were like part of the genre that I wanted to keep, and then you just have to go down the list and like this doesn't work, this doesn't work, this doesn't work, until you finally just reach that point where everything clicks. And I feel like we're at that point now. Like it's been clicking for months, and we're in this closed beta, and it's been going pretty well.
Well, and we kind of talked about some of the mechanics that were thrown out earlier when we were playing. Like, for example, one of the fun parts of a game is a mech could be standing on a building, and you blow up the building underneath them, and of course they'll fall into the rubble. But my assumption is the person would take damage for falling on the rubble.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah. So like I was saying last night, that was part of the design originally, but I think the biggest issue was that like I feel like when you're looking at it, instinctively it makes sense. Like yes, there will be fall damage, but at the same time, we wanted to still keep this idea that these like that the pilots and the mecha are like absurdly powerful, over the top, and you know they're punching each other across the city, and they're going through all these different buildings, everything's exploding. But that ultimately it just felt like if you just fall off a building and it's like you ping off a point of damage, it's like it kind of broke it. Like we just wanted them to it just got to a point where we're like they should be stronger than that. But the thing is that though when you destroy the building, it creates the hazards underneath them, so they can fall into fire or these arc hazards, and they're like get shocked, and it messes up their systems and things like that. So there's still things that happen.
One of the hazards, because Rob wasn't there, but is essentially a change of level. So, and this was kind of fun. I destroyed a building. His mech fell into a crater. So now he was at head kicking level.
Just like old mech force. That's a good thing.
It is a good thing.
It is good. We've played many hours on that. All right, so I'm going to get it from board gamers if I don't ask what's in the box, because they all get all testy. If I don't mention what's in the box, that's my whole job.
Okay.
What's in the box?
You want like full component list?
Yeah, well, the manuals.
Okay. Oh yeah. So core set, you have 4 plastic robots. Each robot has a deck of 30 cards that are attacks in these tactical instants. And then each one of the robots has 3 cards that are big ultimate finishing moves, these ultimate techniques. Then it comes with 4 pilots. Each pilot has a 10-card deck. They're all these tactical instants. Then each robot and each pilot has a player board that is these dials to control their fighting spirit or their health, which is just called their armor. It's a D12 focused like dice system. So then in the main box there are 24 D12s. They're 14 millimeters. There are 4 D10s, 14 millimeters for defense. Go ahead.
Toys everywhere.
Lots of toys, and then 15 punchboard structures. There's 5 skyscrapers
How many
that are
did you
like
say there were?
15.
All right.
Yeah.
I heard that one.
Then there's
a lot.
5 skyscrapers, and then the shorter buildings there's 10 of them. They're just high rises.
So I was only seeing part of the board in the picture on our site. That I was only seeing part of the board in the don't know because the picture was taken of you.
Oh.
Well, it's probably after the buildings had already been destroyed, so it's all flat. Oh yeah,
there
and
was
then
something that fell, you know.
And then
We
there's-
will have some 3D shots of this available. It's a 3D board. How can you not have 3D shots of it, right?
I was happy you were bringing that camera. Yeah, that's fun. Sorry, just really quick. I forgot to mention that there's all these there's tokens. So when you destroy the buildings, there's a bunch of tokens to mark like the damage, like craters, fire, things like that. That stay on the board permanently. There's a ton of those.
Awesome. So there's tons of stuff.
Lots of stuff.
Not on the cheap.
Hopefully on the cheap. If I can lock it down with my manufacturer, I'm hoping I can get it to $60 or maybe even less.
That's actually pretty low.
Yeah, given, you know, anytime you talk in plastic models, whew, price goes up quite a bit.
Well, the good thing is that we've actually, all the sculpts are done, and we actually have master molds made for some of them. So a lot of the costs that would, like when you're going into manufacturing, like you're hitting like $1,000 per mold or even more, a lot of those costs have already been taken care of. And then it's just doing the runs of the plastic miniatures, and that's relatively cheap. So we've handled a lot of the larger costs up front for the minis specifically.
So has the advent of 3D printing made that easier? I know prototyping used to take forever.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely 3D printing was helped just to be able to go to cons and go to like protospiels and things like that, and just so people can actually see what the miniatures will look like, at least in terms of scale. But
obviously the quality isn't the same.
Oh no, yeah, it's not.
Depending on
Yeah, but that's also the thing. It's like 3D printing. It's like if it works well, like you've got a great looking miniature, but there's so many, like for our game, we've gone through so many botched 3D prints, like so many, just depending on the type of printer you're going with, things like that. So it does make it easier, but it has its own challenges.
So now you got a nice prototype, obviously very workable. So where are we in sort of release?
Right now, we have a closed beta group. This is kind of like the last bit of testing we're doing. The game's been in development for 2.5 years. Once the beta testers are pretty much finished with it, which I mean, we're almost there. We're looking at taking it to Kickstarter next spring. It depends on when we lock down our final quote, but we're looking at somewhere between mid-February to mid-March. And then also, most likely by the end of the month, we're going to have a digital open beta that'll be available through Tabletopia. So I'm not sure if anybody back to Kickstarter.
I don't understand digital. Can you explain that?
Oh yeah. So there's pretty much it was like a month or 2 months ago. There's this Kickstarter for a program called Tabletopia. It's basically just a digital like board game engine. Okay. There's no like AI. There's no mechanics there. It's like you kind of have to know the games, or they have the manual available when you log on. But it's like a browser-based thing, and you could just play games through. You just click, it's physics-based. You drag your pieces, you move your dials, and things like that. So it just allows you to play games digitally with friends online, and it's kind of the perfect option, at least for us, in terms of open beta testing, because we don't have to create the massive amounts of physical copies to send out to people anymore. Which that's what we did for the closed beta. But now we can just put it out there for free, and like, hey, if you're a member of Tabletopia, you can just play our game.
Right, and then you can get feedback on the game mechanics, and we always got stuck doing this, or you know. Okay, all right. That does sound like a wise way to go on that. You know, we've done a lot of these interviews, and there are a lot of you don't think about the number of challenges there are to getting a game out there. You think, I got this idea, and it just happens, and it's like thinking of the idea and the game is almost like the easy part. It's everything beyond that.
No. Yeah, taking that leap from like idea to actual production is just or especially that first time you like give it to somebody in a blind play test, and then you're just so fearful that they're going to totally break the hell out of your game. But yeah, it's a big leap.
You're sitting there going, I'm so frustrated with this rule.
No, it's like, the first time I ever like led a blind play test, and I was actually there, but I just went into the room, I didn't say anything, and they were reading through the manual, and it was like, I just realized the language of the manual was so terrible because they were like misinterpreting all these things. I'm like, that's not how it is. No. It's cool. It's cool.
A couple years back, we were sent a game, and we did a let's play on camera, and the producers made it. You guys were playing it all wrong.
Terrible. terrible.
But it helped them develop their
you
clarify their
Yeah.
rules.
But it's just so sad and miserable watching it happen. But it's kind of funny at the same time because it gets completely abstract because they can totally misinterpret things, and then they just had this entirely new game that they essentially just created.
They're like, I want that game. Wait a minute. That's my next game.
Yeah.
Not going to tell them, but I like it.
So, if they want to check out your game, what's the website?
You can go to gigarobo.com. It's just GIGAROBO. We're also on Board Game Geek. We're on Facebook. It's just facebook.com/playgigarobo. We're also on Twitter. We're on Instagram. We're everywhere.
And we'll, of course, link you up.
Okay, awesome.
And I think we're all set. And we'll have more interviews for you later. And Rob's going to quit drinking for a little bit.
We're rolling. Okay, go ahead.
Hi, this is Larry with Guys, Games, and Beer, and I'm with...
Brian Mosley from Safe Haven Games.
And
with Tom. And so you and your game is?
Prove it.
And Prove It. So I got a chance to play Prove It last night. And I got to say, okay, cool idea for a game. So explain what Prove It is.
Prove It is a small 2 to 5 player card game. It's a kind of a lighthearted party card game where players are paranormal investigators, taking turns playing evidence to either prove their own myths or disprove their opponent's myths.
See, now that's what kind of attracted to me was the fact that it's based on like urban legends. So you've got like all the urban legends written in here.
Oh, yeah.
And what you're trying to do is, again, the idea is you got 2 to 5? Was it? I'm sorry, how many?
2 to 5 players.
2 to 5 players playing against each other, and you're working to say, okay, yeah, maybe that exists, but I'm going to try to disprove it, and you're trying to actually make it happen. Say,
what's an
it's a real
example
myth.
of one of those urban myths?
Well, chupacabra, werewolves, vampires,
Sewer gators.
sewer gators.
Beetlejuice?
No, but we got gremlins.
You had
sock goblins.
Thank you, sock goblins.
Yeah, they're the ones that
What's a sock goblin?
they steal your socks.
Dude, have you not ever gone down to your dryer? You know you put 2 in, and there's only 1 there?
I always get mine back.
What do you do? Hunt down the sock goblins?
I put out traps.
He's got sock goblin traps. Okay, that's what I'm
There you go.
saying.
He's proved it. So,
Well, no. See, no, you should have been playing the game last night because I lost on that card. I would have won at that point if you could have proved that you had sock goblins.
So now wait a minute. Now when you talk about proof, is it like, okay, I got to have this card that proves it,
You're playing
or
open.
do I have to basically tell a believable story?
right. Well, you're actually playing like evidence cards, like satellite images that give a concrete value of evidence. And so you're going to be playing cards that are either photographic evidence, scientific evidence, archaeological evidence. So all different types of evidences, and those are going to concretely prove your myth.
Right. So you're holding 6 cards. And it can be any combination of cards, but you're holding 6 cards. And what it is that you have evidence in the positive, and you have disproving evidence as well. So
I
as
assume that you would play on someone else.
correct,
Yeah.
exactly. So if I'm playing the game, and when I start playing the game, and it's all okay, each card has a series of values on the bottom.
Yes.
What it takes to prove that, or what it takes to disprove it. So you're, as a player, trying to prove it, which is what I was trying to do last night, not doing a particularly good job. Say the least, I lost. Or you're trying to disprove it as the opponent, try to prove your own evidence and disprove theirs. So it's got a set of values. It was like red and blue, I think, is
Yeah,
correct?
Confirmation and opposition evidence.
Good, you got it, Larry. I'll stop.
Yeah, so this confirmation and opposition evidence. Confirmation evidence is blue, opposition evidence is red, and yeah.
Yeah. So no, I found it really again, really as far as the gameplay went, it was fairly solid, easy to pick up. Very often we like games that we can play while we're drunk because it's
Yes, because that's what we do.
Yeah, very much so. So I do not want to read a 50-page rule book to play a game. I'm sorry, I don't. I also don't want to spend 7 hours playing a single game of anything, okay? If I'm on a campaign, maybe I'll play for 7 hours. Maybe, not often. But I want a game like that one where I can sit down, sit at the table. Literally within 5 minutes, we were hard at it.
Well, what's your play time?
Play time is really between like 15 minutes for a 2-player game. The more players you add, the longer it gets, but max is like 45 minutes.
So we're actually on the shorter side of things.
Yeah, it's a pretty short game. It's really fast and furious.
Right. So basically, you're trying to get up to a point value on the game.
8 points.
Right. So each different myths are worth different points. So the harder they are to prove or disprove, the more what do you call the points for winning again?
Victory points.
Victory points, VPs you get. And so once you actually get up to 8, you win the game. So it again had a really solid mechanic, played well.
This is your first game attempt?
Yeah, this is my first launched game, and yeah, it's been doing.
So you launched. So you're full production. You just can buy it now, or
Yeah, it's being printed right now, and we're doing pre-orders on our website and here at the convention.
Okay, well, now that you mentioned your website,
safehaven-games.com.
all right. Okay, so look, I have one job. We go through this every show. I have one job. Okay, my job is to make sure our guests give out their website. I do it.
you're awful talkative for that one job.
Well, I also played the game, so I kind of know what the game involves. Okay,
Oh, it's an exception.
this is an exception to the rule. So it's an additional job to what I normally do. So Safe Haven Games, you've actually traveled a long way to be here because we are in Madison. So by the way, if you're not, I'm sure you know you're watching the show. We are at GameHole in Madison, Wisconsin. These guys came all the way from
San Diego.
Oh, that's a bit of a trip.
Yeah, it's
So, I gotta ask,
It's a journey.
how did you find out about GameHole?
Actually through GameCrafter. The GameCrafter, I was working on a prototype for another game and saw that there was a competition for a board game design and actually designed Prove It specifically for that contest.
Oh, so you are in the GameCrafter competition here as well.
Yeah.
Nice. Oh, so, but not with this game, with a new game that you're going to be
Actually,
introducing.
no, with this game.
Oh, with this game.
With this game. It did not make it to the finals,
Okay.
but it was a semifinalist and got third place by popular vote.
Damn, I can see. But that being said, I can see why you did. It plays well.
GameCrafter, just asking about how the experience was for you. Did they then offer feedback, or how did that?
Yeah, I had the opportunity to get it tested. They call it sanity tested, so that see if the rule book is clear, and they would give some feedback. You could get the art tested and stuff, and they would give back feedback what could be stronger and what would sell better based on their experience. So it's actually a really friendly, well organized website.
Did you end up coming across some things that you thought, I think I'm actually going to change that?
Yeah, a few things. Actually, now that I'm actually in production, there's still a couple things that some people have have made suggestions for future editions, but
That does make
Future
it
editions.
tough.
Future editions.
It
Future
makes it
editions.
tough,
and expansion.
All right.
Because it's a very expandable game, so I'm working on that. The next thing.
Good. Okay, so I'm going to ask, how did you go ahead and get started with? Did you kickstart this? Did you self-fund this?
No, self-funded this.
Wow.
Self-funded this one, and yeah, we're just.
We have the rare rabbit.
What's that?
Rare rabbit.
You are the rare rabbit now in the gaming industry, a
Absolutely.
self-funder. Nowadays, so many people kickstart or go to the different game starting programs. So a self-funder, not that they don't exist still, we find it rarer and rarer as we do this.
Well, absolutely, and Kickstarter is a great resource for independent game designers, and I have used it. I actually just successfully launched another game called Winds of Fortune. That was successful in August.
Okay,
And
well,
so-
explain a little bit about Winds of Fortune so people know.
Yeah, Winds of Fortune is a naval strategy card game. It kind of plays similar to Magic the Gathering, but each player has a game board, which they're maneuvering their ships and monsters to actually find open firing lanes and destroy their opponent's flagship.
Right. So you're not only just competing against your opponent, but there's like monsters and other things popping up on the board while you're playing the game. You told me a little bit about this too, and I thought it really had some real potential there.
The other monsters and stuff are bought from the other players.
Oh, so
they actually it is player.
Oh, they're actually controlling the monsters.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't realize that. That sounds kind of cool too. So it's a fantasy, naval,
Exactly.
piratey kind of thing.
Yeah.
Cool. So now that's 2 games coming out. You planning any more in the near future?
Absolutely. Many
So
more.
you're prolific as well. Even better.
Many more.
Okay. So again, Safe Haven Games is based out of,
San Diego.
and again one more time, the website is.
Safehaven-games.
And so is Prove It available on your website?
Yes, it is available, and so is Winds of Fortune.
And so that's also available already. So that was your
They're
Kickstarter.
available
one.
for pre-order right now, and
Okay.
they'll both be done in by mid to late December.
Excellent.
So, and then they'll be shipped out from there.
Okay. Besides on the website, are you planning marketing anywhere else?
Right now, we're in discussions with retailers, and we're trying to figure out distribution, but not right now.
Okay. All right. So right now, if you want to get there, if you want to get either of these games, go to their website. Again, prove it. I can see this being a great little party game. You got your friends who are not serious hardcore gamers. This is the one to whip out. It's just nice, lighthearted. It's got all your favorite urban legends in it. You need to go with it. It's definitely a good one.
All right.
All right?
Yeah.
This has been another segment of Guys, Games, and Beer, and we will be back after this short break.
Larry has been drinking a lot at this con. And, yeah. The North American drunken Larry in his natural habitat. I'm Rob with Guys, Games, and Beer, and I'm with...
Bill Webb of Frog God Games and the rest of the packing crew, production crew, and creative crew from Frog God Games.
I've got to say, this has got to be one of the largest crews we've ever done during one of our interviews. Wow, look at this guy. He came prepared, too, no less. He's got, like, a bottle with him. You kind of know our style here, so... Hell yeah! Right. So, yes, you have to... And I will remind everybody, you need to speak into the mic, so tell us a little bit about both.
Okay, so I guess... I'll introduce everybody. Frog God Games presents. Ta-ta! Yeah.
I'm impressed. You went right into your announcer voice there. You keep talking to the mic.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I figure I'll let that announcer get done. But to introduce everybody, we have Johnny Webb, who's our local table troll. This is Skeeter Green. He's actually our troll.
You have a troll.
We have a troll. We have a troll. This is Krista Webb, my wife. She's the one who handles all our customer service and logistics and shipping. Below, next to me here is my daughter, Jillian Webb, and she's one of the poor slaves that packs packages, along with Tracy, my goddaughter. She's the lead slave, head slave.
Okay, at least
along with other slave back here, Tracy, my goddaughter, who also packs a lot of books. This is Tom Canas. He's one of our main authors, and in front of me is my main partner, Matthew Finch. And I'll let him talk a little bit about himself here in a second, and tell you what we're going on right now.
So what have you guys got going on right now?
Right at the moment, we're working on a Kickstarter called the Borderland Provinces, which is one that is based on campaigns developed back in '77, and it sort of ties together some of the bigger products that Frog God Games and Necromancer Games have done, which would include Rappin' Athok, and would also include Lost City of Baracus, some of the really large publications that we've done, some of the award-winning ones, and this is the sort of the glue that ties the whole thing together. And it may or may not still be going at the time that this actually airs, so it may be that people watching have missed it, which would be a shame. But
so if you should happen to see this, go immediately to the link we put down below to their Kickstart. And if it's still going, for heaven's sake, get in on it before it closes out on you. How close are you to your goal?
we've already passed the goal. We're already into the run-up for the stretch goals.
Okay.
We've got about 9 days left.
Get in on a stretch goal. Yeah, wow. Okay, that is brilliant. So... Pass it back to Bill.
Sure, why not?
There we go. And even after this Kickstarter, our next one, we're going to see if we can break our own record. We currently hold the record for the largest RPG book ever made at 957 pages. And we're going to see if we can break our record with our next Kickstarter, which is going to be called The Blight. That'll be starting in about 3 weeks, something like that. We think prediction right now is between 1,000 and 1,100 page book.
So again, this is a cooperative authored book.
No.
No, it's not.
It's written by one guy. And so it was actually written by one guy, a guy named Richard Pett.
900 pages. You did 900
Yeah.
pages.
No, my biggest book ever. Yeah, I can show you that. My biggest book ever personally is about 550, 600 pages, depending on the version it's in. But
I can barely write the description for this show every episode. That's just insane.
One of the things that's been asked by a lot of our customers and fans, they keep joking around with us, that we need to make a Frog God Games bookshelf because we've got a half dozen books at least over 500 pages. One of the things that's sort of our shtick is our quality, and we do produce really expensive books. Obviously, they're huge. But one of the things I always say is that, if your book ever breaks, binding ever fails, anything like that if I'm alive and I have a spare copy and your grandchildren can't use it, you can call me and I'll replace it, because we do everything library bound. And so the way that I picked our printer It's kind of a funny story. The drunks in the audience will like this. I got test copies from a number of printers, and I took them out in my backyard and hit them with a baseball bat till they came apart. And the one that failed to fail is the printer that we use. And so big shout out to Walsworth Publishing for anybody who wants to make big books.
So now there is a new test for all of you guys who are running print shops or book bindings. Just take a baseball bat, start smacking your book around, and if it holds up, yeah, you might get some more business.
Exactly.
I'm good with that. Oh, wait.
Yes.
Can you substitute anything else, maybe crowbars, or does it have to be a baseball bat? And wood or metal? I mean, that's the big question.
That I can actually answer, believe it or not. So one of the things my wife suggested that we do is we take one of my high-powered rifles out back. I have a rifle range in my backyard, and we live in a big farm. And we see whether or not we can actually penetrate the Slumbering Czar book with a high-powered rifle at 100 yards. And so I haven't done that yet, but we might test that.
So no, I've physically seen this book. It is like this thick. When he says it's like the thickest book ever, he means it's like the thickest book ever.
Now the question about the metal, okay, is actually on a couple of books. Rarely we do this, but on a couple of our larger releases, my last book called Sword of Air, they're all sold out, so nobody can buy them, but I actually have a blacksmith that handcrafts and forges metal covers, and we've done 14-pound books bound in metal, and with a custom book binder using they're 14 pounds. We were initially going to make boxes to hold them in. We couldn't find a box maker that said that the corners wouldn't bust through the box, other than beveling out with a Dremel tool a solid block of wood. So there were no boxes ever made. But yeah, the book's a 14-pound custom blacksmith forged book. We're doing those again for the Northland Saga, which is our new Viking book that's coming out in about January.
All right. So now we've talked a little bit about the physical appearance of the book. I'd like to actually get into a little bit of the storyline behind the book.
Sure.
Oh,
I wish I had my maps.
Sorry about that.
But I'll start, and then I'm going to pass it to Matt as well.
Okay.
We have a game world called the Lost Lands, and what that really is a lot of my home campaign, and then that's integrated with Greg Vaughn and Matt Finch's worlds and campaigns. And so the three of us came together about 5 years ago and decided that none of us could do it on our own. And so we started doing these things collaboratively. And we're actually putting together our world setting, which is probably the most detailed world setting. I'd even put us on par with somebody like Forgotten Realms in terms of detail. We just finished the first map, where we have about 9 books that are linked to one 6-panel map with 50-mile hexes on it. And I'd be happy to show you guys that later. It's pretty cool.
We will
I'll give you the geek map tour.
What, me? What, move?
Move into the thing?
Yeah, just talking. Yeah, why are we doing anything quietly here? So, no problem. So, yeah, so, again,
Wait, I don't have to be quiet.
Again, the depth that these dive into is amazing. So that's the other thing about it. So we've talked physically about the book. There's a reason why one of them is 900 pages. They needed that for the depth of what they go into in your stories.
Yeah, we do, and we've got a very in detail canonized book, and all of our stuff fits within our game world, but also pieces of it, or at least large pieces of it, are portable and are usable in any setting. Chris, pass to Matt.
Add to that.
Nope.
Way to go, Matt.
Well,
Right.
He's got that.
Yeah.
Skeeter, okay, Skeeter got
We
it.
need to introduce Skeeter Green, who's the guy who's actually responsible for the books getting out of a door at any particular point in the process, because the creative side of the team is basically like herding cats, and so the person who actually does the herding is Skeeter.
Hello, my name is Skeeter Green. What is the question that we are answering here?
Talk a little bit about the physical construction of your books, because none of you guys are prolific. I mean, literally prolific. I mean, I've never seen that many books from one single studio in forever. Yeah. Sorry, I need the mic. So we are going to talk a little bit about not just the physical aspect of your books, because evidently we talked about that.
Yeah.
Shooting them, taking a baseball bat to them.
What kind of things?
Right, what kind of things can they and can't they stand? But we also want to talk a little bit, so not only do the books have a lot of depth in them as far as the writing, but you're prolific guys too. You have just a horrendous amount of books, and evidently you make sure that they actually get done.
I do make sure they get done, and arguably, Bill Webb is one of the best writers for a convention scenario. That doesn't always equate to a good book that gets published. We need to put some rules to it so the mass market can have it. But creatively and arguably, again, Bill Webb and Matt Finch, two of the best convention gamers, DMs that are out there. And I have them both. So we get to write game mechanics for excellent stories, and everybody has an excellent time.
Nice. So let's talk a little bit about those game mechanics. So are they doing just the storyline and you taking care of the mechanics, or are you all working on the mechanics together?
They don't let me do mechanics.
Yeah, build it.
Yeah, they don't let me do mechanics.
So the seed idea from the stories comes from the authors, and then it goes to a series of converters. We cover Swords and Wizardry, Pathfinder, and 5th edition. All of our stories come from a old school mentality as far as the story seed, but it's game mechanics for everyone. So we don't exclude anyone. We just come from a very singular source.
And when we're talking about old school, what we're mainly talking about is sort of open-ended sandbox type adventures rather than being something that's an adventure path that follows. For a lot of the Pathfinder stuff, we do an adventure path in the sense that they are highly linked. But for the other two editions, 5th edition and Swords and Wizardry, which is original D&D basically, we decouple the connections between things to make them just a series. And most of the things that we've got are very open-ended, where people can wander around from one place to another in it. So that's basically what we do. And when we convert from one system to another, system matters, and so you've got a lot of adaptation in between one book and the other. So,
okay. So now you're writing, but you're writing for three different completely different. And I know there's some similarities in that, but they're really very distinct rule sets.
There are. And so what's usually happening, obviously the author is writing in one rule system.
Right.
And then what it happens from there, once it's been edited, it goes to a converter for the other two systems.
Okay.
And what the converters are tasked with doing is not making just a numerical switch from one thing to another. There's no formula involved in conversion. System matters. And so what we tell the converters is, look, you're going to be doing a lot of writing. Because the thing that we're doing here is you know the strengths of the system that you're converting into. And it's been written with the strengths of another edition in mind. You have to be the designer in your conversion in order to make the thing play to the strengths of the particular system that you're doing. A lot of the people that we write for play in more than one edition. And so they're able to see the difference when they open up the book, that there are structural differences. Things are done entirely differently in some of the areas for how it's going to be handled, so that it's working to the strengths of the particular system that you're getting.
That's nice. So you're doing that all outside of house, though?
No, that's all in-house.
Oh, you have in-house people?
Yeah.
Oh, you've got in-house. Wow, that's...
We got another dozen people.
That's... What, you didn't have enough already here? So that's really... No, to have that in-house gives you a lot of creative control, I imagine.
So, I mean, one of the people that we've got here who works with a lot of the systems is actually Tom Knaus, who has written terrain systems for Pathfinder. And so I'm going to let's pull Tom in there and say something.
So Tom can talk a bit about that.
Hey, how you doing? I'm Tom Knaus. I'm one of the writers for Frog God Games. I do the terrain books, so if you're the guy who's stuck...
No, he might be.
I am. I gotta be. So if you're the guy who's stuck in the desert, you're stuck in the mountains, or you're stuck in the plains, or you're stuck in the swamps, you want to talk to me because I'll tell you how to get out of there. And that's very useful. But I do the adventures. I do the most of the Pathfinder rules. Greg Vaughan and I probably do the most Pathfinder rules because we're the most familiar with the system. Swords and Wizardry, I don't know that well. And 5th edition, I've played a few times, but we have conversion guys who do that. So I'm the guy who also gets talked to every now and then about, no, that's too risque, you can't put that in an adventure, or that's a too adult. Our fans won't like that. So, but I know they will. I know, but I've learned my lessons. I've been talked to a few times, so that will not happen anymore.
But when you're talking about specificity, about knowing about a terrain area, we were talking about part of the campaign, and I said, okay, so here's the creeping mire. And he said, well, is that a bog or a fen? And I said, it's got lizard men.
Yeah, Matt didn't know what he was in for because I gave him almost a scientific grilling. Is it groundwater sourced or not groundwater? Is it precipitation only? What kind of runoff? Is it water runoff? And it's just like, I don't know, it's a bog. It's lizard men. It's close enough. So that's the primary thing I do for Frog God Games.
So the biggest thing that we have is we have good ideas from good authors, whether it's Tom Knaus, Bill Webb, Matt Finch, Greg Vaughn, any of the number of people that we have, we take their good idea and then we put game mechanics to it. So we give the best adventures that are out there right now. They're adventures worth winning, and that's what we go for.
Yeah, if you can make an adventure where people get vested in what's going on, that's what it's about. So go ahead one more time. Give us your website, please. Here, yeah, give us your website.
Okay, it's froggodgames.com. Our customer service email is bill@talesofthefroggod.com. We're always open to answering questions. Or froggodgames@gmail.com as well. And the one thing I wanted to mention, there were actually two, is that Greg Vaughn's not here with us right now. He's in medical school finals right now, so he's not at the con. He is the lead Pathfinder guy for our company. And the other thing I wanted to mention, that part of our deal is our high quality. I mentioned that earlier, but we have one of the top layout guys in this entire industry, and he's not here either. He's actually home laying out the Northlands book right now. But his name's Chuck Wright, and he's really fantastic, and he makes our books, some of the nicest things that we have in the industry.
So while you guys are out drinking some very good Japanese whiskey, you're making him work, is what you're saying.
Pretty much, yeah.
So while you're working right now, look what they're drinking while you're working, okay?
Yep.
And I will post a link so you can see what they're drinking. Rub it in. Just rub it in.
Yeah.
Okay, so one more time, this is the crew from
Frog God Games.
You guys need to check them out. Again, their work is amazing. A lot of depth, a lot of great mechanics in the games. They have just an unbelievable library already available, and a lot more coming out. Thank you guys for being on the show this evening.
Appreciate it. Thank you.